in the height of my addiction, it would take me 4 hours to balance, right? Because I would drink like 24/7, right? And then you drink too much, you got to take some blow or a pill or whatever. You get too high, now you got to drink again. So at a certain time, there's a balance that I found. Even though it may have only lasted for 10 minutes or 30 minutes, it was a balance. And so I remember, I mean, I had makeup I put on my rashes on my face, and I'm all bloated. And I'd show up to meetings, I mean, reeking probably of alcohol.
This is the Knocking Doors Down podcast. I'm your host, Jason LaChance, and here we unlock stories of resilience, triumph, and transformation. Hey, please hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're on. And while you're at it, why not leave a rating, a review, or a thumb up on YouTube and a comment in the video. And my guest on this episode of Knocking Doors Down is a celebrated entrepreneur, has been featured on Oprah, Forbes, Entrepreneur, and People magazine. His resonating message of hope, changing the world one person at a time, is his mantra. Documented his life of battling addiction over 20 years with alcohol and substances in his memoir, There Is No Box. As of the release of this podcast, 7/7/24, my guest is celebrating 4 years of recovery and sobriety. And now is a spokesman of OpiAID, an award-winning data science company that is harnessing the power of AI to combat the opioid epidemic. Dino Miliotis, thank you for joining me, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me. What a pleasure.
My pleasure. Come on now, huh? We talked on the phone the other day. I'm like, I love this guy already.
Let's go, brother. Let's go.
I don't know about your practices in recovery, but I'm just over 3 years continual, about 7 years total. And gratitude is it's the first thing I think of every morning. It's always 3 to 5 things. So I like to start my conversations that way. 3 things you're grateful for today.
Yeah, well, first thing is to be alive and given a second chance, obviously. And given a second chance not to squander it on me. But, I was put here to inspire people. That's my gift. And that's what I'm doing.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Well, hey, we were kind of chatting here beforehand, and it's really interesting to me because you invented Bug Ban. It was a all natural insect repellent bracelet. This is back in what, 96?
1996. Yeah.
So you were a thriving entrepreneur, and it was interesting because we kind of talked about the yes men, and it reminded me of when I sat down with Charlie Sheen here on the podcast, and I told him, I said it really bothered me watching you during the Tiger Blood stuff because you had all these yes people around you while you were fucking killing yourself. And it's so disheartening to me how people will lose their humanity, in the name of money or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, Bug Ban was when I developed my addiction to drugs and alcohol. And the reason was, it wasn't like a progressive success. It was like, bam, overnight. It was literally an accident. So, 1 minute I'm broke as a joke and just trying to figure out how to survive. And the next minute, I'm in People magazine. I'm sitting down with Oprah. I'm in 63 countries. I sell like over 30 million of these bands myself. And so it was like complete rock star. And so I'd go, to a gas station and people would run up. Hey, I saw you on TV. I'm like, who are you, dude? I don't know you. I was young. I was naive. All of the above. And I just didn't know how to handle it. And then every interview had to be better and better and better. And so I found bravery in a bottle, if you will, or anything kind of lying around, cocaine, whatever. And I was just, as we all know in the beginning, when you take substances, when you take that drink, you're like almost like that euphoric moment. You're like, wow, did you see? I was great. I was on point. I did all these things. That's how it starts. You don't notice it right away, but it's a creeper. And that's how it started for me.
Yeah. How old were you at the time?
I was breaking 30.
Okay.
Which isn't really, really young, but I'm going to be 59 in September. So, this was a long time ago, but it was instant stardom and I just didn't know how to handle it. was never on a camera. I was never sitting with Oprah. I never had People magazine in my face. I mean, the camera guys were like, "Are you ready, kid? We're going to take this picture. You're going to be famous." I'm like, yeah, but deep down inside, I'm trembling. I'm like, wow, I'm going to be in People magazine.
Right.
Um, so for me, it was overwhelming. I mean, obviously looking back, I would have done a million things different, but at the time, it's just like that's the trade-off, and it was a wild ride. I mean, I was highly functioning for more than 20 years under the influence.
Wow. Well, and it goes to show too that, when it comes to our consciousness, we only know what we know. And it's
Absolutely.
and it's like, yeah, I couldn't imagine if all of a sudden, see, I'm lucky. If all of a sudden I came up with this product and I called you and it hit the market and it took off, I've got a mentor now for it because of the using technology and relationships for good. But if it was 20 years ago, I would have been 25. I would be dead. I would be dead.
Right, right. How I wasn't dead already is beyond me, but like everybody else who hits it big, who says, I'm never going to do those things. I did them all. Anything you could think of, the answer is yes. Anything you wanted to buy, the answer is also yes. I mean, I blew a ton of money, ton of money. But I mean, it was my first taste. I never forgot it. I stored the good stuff, and obviously now I'm discarding the bad stuff. So, this particular venture, this point in my life, I mean, things seem like they happen easy. It's not. I mean, obviously nothing's really easy, but without that ball and chain that I was carrying around for 20 years, for me, it's incredible. I mean, you're sharp, you're just on point, you never run out of energy, and you know exactly where to go.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, that's the beautiful part of recovery, and our wonderful saying at 12 step, it works if you work it, because it's true. Like
Yeah.
I have yet to find evidence of someone in recovery that has truly worked it and life isn't better.
That's absolutely true. And the thing for me is coming out of it, I went to a treatment center. I said, I'm never going to be that guy that goes, but I did because I really needed to surrender. And I mean, really like swallow that big ego that I had and all the toys in the garage. And I mean, they're just things, but literally I had all this and I had nothing. I had no friends. I had no family. I had no purpose. I didn't care if I lived or died. So when I went in, I kind of like wrapped myself around like, what are these people? I mean, I got to learn from everybody. And the longer they were sober, I mean, I picked their brain and asked them stupid questions. Nothing stupid, but I mean, anything that came to mind. But when I got out of treatment, it was right in the middle of a COVID lockdown. And we all remember that's when the whole world stopped turning. That's how I describe it. And isolation for people like us isn't really a good thing, especially when you're just fresh out of recovery. So, you know, I watched like 456 episodes of Law and Order, right? The binge-a-thon. Hey, it's not me. I'm not a loser. Everybody's binge-a-thon. It's okay. I'm fine. I should get an honorary degree for watching so many, law episodes. But after a while, it got boring, and the freaks started coming out at night. The demons in my head, like thinking about alcohol, thinking about using. And this is 8 months into my recovery, so it's not like I'm fresh out and I'm like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Why am I feeling this way? But I'm alone with my thoughts morning, noon, and night. I didn't know about a recovery community at that time. That's how naive I am. I was buried in the sand. So, I mean, I was working the program, and I was also, following up with counselors and therapists and undergoing MAT, medically assisted treatment.
Yeah.
And this is just my take. I'm not knocking the whole medical community for sure, but for me, nobody wanted to hear what I had to say. I mean, there's just like, how are you feeling? I'm like, well, let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you something for your baseline anxiety, but that won't work for maybe about 2 months. I'm going to give you something else for your anxiety that works immediately, but don't take it because it's addictive. I'm going to give you something else for your baseline depression, but that won't kick in for a month. I'm like, are you serious right now?
Mm-hmm.
And so before long, I was taking like 8 different medications, and I was like a freaking zombie. I mean, I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to shower. I was watching a blank TV. And I was like, this is what everybody's talking about. I mean, I'd rather be dead. I'd rather start drinking and using again. I mean, I couldn't articulate how I felt. And they kept asking me, well, when was the last time you used? Do you feel suicidal? On a feelings chart, pick the best feeling that describes you. On a pain chart, pick your pain. I'm like, dude, I don't know. But if you don't help me now, I'm going to crack. I mean, seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So it was literally true grit and divine intervention. And, my publicist was like, well, maybe you shouldn't really hit on that divine. No, you know what? I'm going to hit on it because you can think whatever you want for me. It was definitely a clear message.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not a praying man, but show me what I'm supposed to do. I'm in your hands. I'm ready to follow you. And as soon as I said that, in my worst time, my phone, I hear a text, ding, ding. And it's some kid that worked at a car wash like years ago. And I used to bring my fancy cars into a regular car wash, like a Rolls Royce. Why? Because I had an ego the size of Texas and I liked the attention. Oh, mister, what do you do for a living? Oh my God, I want to be like you one day. Tell me the secret of your success. And I'm like, well, kid, I mean, can you see it? I'm embarrassed to even explain it, but that's true, right?
Yeah.
So, at that moment, this kid from years past texted me and he says, hey, this is Car Wash Kid. I hope you remember me. I don't know where you are these days. I don't know what you're doing, but I just wanted to tell you I have a real job now and I've used your principles of success and I've been promoted twice. Thank you. And I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me, right? Seriously? I mean, that is my sign. That was my moment. Up until that time, sobriety was just sobriety. It was dry sober, which some people call it.
Yeah.
But at that time, I was convinced that, you know what? Maybe I'm here to inspire people. Maybe I had that gift all along and I just didn't recognize it because I was so polluted.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what I'm supposed to do, right? Mm-hmm. Funny how things just kind of happen. And so I just decided, like, I'm going to write my life story. It's really interesting. At least I thought it was. And I'm just going to put pen to paper and I'm just going to write my heart out. Never wrote a book before. So, but for 8 months, I wrote 12-hour days, never had anxiety, never had cravings, never had depression, nothing. I was like on a mission. I was possessed. And then when I was done and it got published, the most wonderful thing happened. This beautiful recovery community, this online community that I knew nothing about, starts coming out in droves. Thank you for your read. Oh, what a great read. It touched me. I especially like this. I'm like, who are these people, right? I mean, you don't know, but I got immersed in it. And before long, I'm talking to people online morning, noon, and night because, of course, our addiction isn't 9 to 5. It's 24/7.
Yep.
Right? And so I'm up at all hours. And I was so involved in these platforms that when the moderators had something to do or they went on vacation, they would post to like 80,000 people. I'm on vacation, but if you have somebody that you need to talk to, DM Dino Miliotis. I'm like, whoa. Dude, I don't even work here. So
I'm just a visitor here.
Yeah. I mean, but to me, it was an honor that they would consider me like that steady and that rock solid that they could count on me, which they could, and that got me noticed, and that led to just a completely new life where sobriety as a thing, as a moment, turned into a lifestyle, which is recovery.
Yes.
Once you embrace recovery as a lifestyle, that's when you start to live again.
Yes, sir.
Where you are now may not be where you came from. The choices you make today may spiral out of control or spin you in the right direction. Discover a riveting, true story of how Carlos Vieira nearly destroyed his life and lived to tell about it. Stand up, stand firm, believe, make it happen, and live through the madness. Knocking doors down along the way. And don't miss others telling their powerful stories on our podcast. Visit kddmediacompany.com.
Let me ask you a little bit about, your medication-assisted treatment in addition to the anxiety meds, which I always love that people, this is addictive. Why are you giving it to an effing addict then? Depression. Were you on anything else? I mean, I know you mentioned booze and some blow in there, but was there like a Suboxone or what's the one for alcohol, like Vivitrol or any of that stuff too?
You mean the stuff I was taking before I got clean and sober, or the stuff that I was taking during MAT?
During MAT, yeah.
Okay, during MAT, honestly, I mean, there's like gabapentin, there was Wellbutrin, there was clomazepam or clorazepam. There's so many of them. There were literally 8 bottles, and they kept upping the dose. Okay, so like from a small thing, it's their solution was, let's up the dose and let's just see what the lab rat does after 2 months. Oh, you're back. So how's it been? You know what? I got night terrors and sweats. I have uncertainty about tomorrow. I want to die. Oh, so did you say you want to kill yourself? No. I said, I don't care if I live or die. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I don't want to harm somebody, and I don't want to jump off a bridge. And I it was just so frustrating to get through to somebody. But again, in their defense, trying to look at both ends, consider the source. When you're so far into withdrawal and anxiety and pain and anguish, it's really hard for somebody to articulate the right words to express how you're feeling. Mm-hmm. And so what happens 99% of the time is your health professional defaults to the age-old status, the 40-year gold standard in recovery, which talks about historical averages. Mm-hmm. So I would get things like, well, you shouldn't be feeling this way. And I'm thinking, seriously, they pay you to say this? I mean, I should, but I am feeling this way. I know I shouldn't, but I am, So, it was a horrible time for me, bro. Seriously.
Yeah. And I think some people, there's a lot of folks that watch the channel or listen to the podcast that, it's out of wanting to gain a greater awareness and understanding around addiction and mental health struggles. And I think that's the thing that people don't understand. In my first year, just over a year after doing this podcast, when I had some say a slip up, I say relapse, it lasted a night, but it was all of those thoughts, feelings, emotions that if someone asked me, well, what is it? It's like, I don't have words for you. I don't know. I right. Literally don't know. And that is is scary, huge. Like now I know if I'm feeling a little pent up or, I moved into that secondary emotion, so to speak, of anger. I know how to identify it. I've done the work to raise my consciousness of my emotional state. I may not always know how to process it right away, but I can somewhat communicate it. But when you're in that spiral from anxiety to depression, the loneliness, you're right. That's what did it to me. The recovery community shut down. I didn't have anyone external of this town, but I only had contact with people at meetings. I didn't get phone numbers.
Right.
I didn't have anyone online that I was like a mentor that I could reach out. It really was a situation of divine intervention that my sponsor and our mutual, as well as our mutual friend, Mike Diamond, came into my life.
Yeah, no, I get you 100%. And the exchanging numbers, obviously everybody in the recovery community, they're beautiful souls. And I can't say enough. I mean, if somebody was vetted to the point where like you got to be sober for a certain period of time, but after that, I mean, I would hire every one of them because we're the toughest tested metal there is. And wow, what a diverse background, right? Because addiction knows no one thing. I mean, it's an equal opportunity destroyer, but they are amazing. But by saying that, there's also a nefarious element, right? So you go to these meetings, start exchanging numbers. God forbid they find out who you are. If you have a little bit of money or you get connections, next thing you know, they're hitting you up. Oh, well, I'm going to get kicked. I mean, you want to help everybody, but that's not part of my recovery plan. You know what I mean? My thing is to come in and share fellowship with people and inspire people and get inspired by their stories. It is not to be the, building and loan for anybody. So it is scary. And I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's some of the hardships for people, especially in those early phases, that first 30, 60, 90, heck, I'm in year 3 and I'm still like, it felt some of my hardest emotions that I had now to process within the last year and a half. And I think that is some of the things that can be scary for people when they step into a recovery room or through this process, because, those that we kept close to us before were bedfellows in our disease. And so we had a really not good thing in common. And so you're learning discernment. And I remember I was on a retreat, went down to San Diego, connected with a buddy. We went to an open meeting and there was these younger ladies that were there. They maybe a couple of weeks, and they're sitting near me, and I see this guy across the room, and I just tap them and I go, "Hey, excuse me, sorry to bother you. My name's Jason, but at the end of this meeting, the guy over there is going to come up to you and he's going to want to talk to you. And it's the last thing you need in your life right now." And sure as Dino, at the end of the meeting, he came over and they said hi. And I could tell it was like a no, thank you. And they looked to me and just did a WTF. How did you know? I'm like, because I can spot him. I know the energy. I know what it is. Trust me, next to booze, the attention of a woman was my second most favorite thing.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, and thank God you were there, because a lot of times, I mean, that's what happens. Look, when people, obviously you're watching really, really closely the 30, 60, 90 days that you're sober, right? But when you're talking about people, like you mentioned, a year into your sobriety, some people 10 years, 20 years. Here's what happens. It's not that somebody's going to come to you with let's say it's alcohol. It's not that somebody's going to come to you with a bottle of booze and say, "Hey, look," you know. It's what I consider like a series of unfortunate events. It's a little thing. It's a little other thing, and compounded and compounded, and before long it's just like you're like, forget it, man. I'm just doing it, or it won't hurt, or somebody's like, well, it's not so bad. You start rationalizing to yourself, right? But for me, and here's something I haven't really shared, but for me, it was extra pressure. I mean, not that it's easy to recover, period, but I added extra pressure because my mom was failing in her health. And my stepson also was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh.
And this was maybe about a year into my sobriety. And if I didn't have divine intervention, if I didn't get that moment, if I didn't get clarity, I would have for sure relapsed. And when I mean relapse, I would have relapsed hard. I probably would have killed myself, because I know me. It's not like coasting. Let me have a sip, or I would go real hard, right?
Yeah.
But I had to prepare myself. And I think a lot of people may think like this too. It's like, okay, I'm clean and sober, but what happens if we turn up the heat a little bit and you lose your job? What if you got a divorce, right? What if you experience a death in the family, or a close person, a loved one? How are you going to handle that?
Yeah.
Right. So it's an extra layer that I was worried about. I mean, I was forecasting death. And it sounds gruesome, but I had to know I can handle it.
Yeah.
And I did, by the way.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're here today. Hell yeah. And I'm proud of you. And thank you for sharing that, because I had a recent situation, was doing some work for someone, and it wasn't anything I did. They put the project on hold, or it's done. And I didn't realize how that was still an area for me of struggle, and the money was nice, but I was really about the purpose of it. And I really had to sit and process and even, reach out and have conversations with people. It was like, did you do everything you were asked to do? And I went, well, yeah, I think I underpromised and overdelivered. And they're like, then you did everything you could. And it was like, wow, I really had to find a space of acceptance for myself that regardless of my output, that maybe things aren't going to go the way I would necessarily like them to. But what does that mean that is to come next? Because I was a guy that always thought, oh, my book is already written. Forgetting that, no, like today, sitting here right now talking to you, this just started a new chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, every day's an adventure. My counselor, when I coined out after treatment, we all stood up, the group that I'm graduating with, right? And we were all given coins. And of course, the counselors that have certain people, they're the ones that handpick coins for you, right? And my counselor picked the coin especially for me, and it was a coin that said, "Recovery is discovery, is recovery, I mean, it never ends, right?" And I didn't really grasp what that meant until maybe a half a year ago. But it's like every day you're discovering new things. I mean, we were talking before the show. We were talking, and I told you that I went to visit down in Boca and Palm Beach. Been there several times. But this was the first time I was there sober. And I was like, wow, you know what I mean? I mean, it's so simple to, somebody else is like, what's the big deal? But to people like us, it's just like a kid, eyes wide open. You're like, wow, something that maybe at a moment in our addiction, we probably thought we'd never experience, right?
Yeah, the best I can relate to that, and I've told this story too when I go and speak at high schools or even in where I'm doing a speaker meeting type share, and I talk about with my partner and her and I, one of our first dates was going to see one of my favorite bands of all time, the hottest band in the world, Kiss.
Yeah.
And I said to her as we're driving there, she goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, other than like the first couple of times I saw them, I never got blackout drunk at them, but I said, this is the first time I can remember not drinking and seeing them. And I was scared, am I going to have fun? And Dino, my ass was up the whole concert and I'm doing the Paul Stanley. All right, people, I love you. And I had so much fun and I remember it vividly.
And you remember, so you got your money's worth. Imagine that. I mean, seriously, the little things that we appreciate since we've been given a second chance are amazing. And the energy level, the quality in the day. I mean, things that we never thought about in the height of my addiction, it would take me 4 hours to balance, right? Because I would drink like 24/7, right? And then you drink too much, you got to take some blow or a pill or whatever. You get too high, now you got to drink again. So, but at a certain time, there's a balance that I found. Even though it may have only lasted for 10 minutes or 30 minutes, it was a balance. And so I remember, I mean, I had makeup I put on my rashes on my face and I'm all bloated. And I'd show up to meetings, I mean, reeking probably of alcohol, but I'd get through it. I'd have a meeting and then nobody really knew what I did afterwards. What I did afterwards was go back and start balancing again, all day, all night. Believe it or not, you want to know the sick part? I would say to myself, it's the price you pay for the life you choose. Like I accepted the fact that if I want to have a successful business, and by the way, it's like $1 billion empire I built, okay? It's not a small little thing, but I'm like, I have this, and if it takes this to get me through, if that's the price I have to pay to have all of this, then that's the price I pay. Kind of like, I can't even, I mean, really, I wouldn't even think that. And that's why I said at the end, before I went into treatment, I have all this and I have nothing. Because literally, none of it mattered. None of it mattered. And I chose me. For the first time, I chose me.
Have you dug into the archives of past Knocking Doors Down podcast episodes? The Knocking Doors Down podcast archive is available to you for free. Check it out. Here's a snippet from when Charlie Sheen was on the podcast.
AA is not the best place for a famous atheist. I kept looking for that fucking chapter. But it's not a one size fits all.
Sure.
It's like saying that we all think the same, like our brains are built the same. They're just not.
Right. Yeah.
There's such uniqueness involved.
Check out this episode and so many more in the Knockin' Doors Down archive. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumb up, leave a comment, and share with somebody else that you know will get value out of the Knockin' Doors Down podcast. And I think you hit it so well at the start saying that rock and roll lifestyle, because all the, rock and roll stars, actors, professional wrestlers that I've spoken to, that, that's the thing. It was like, well, I got to get out here and I got to perform. And then the fans that are hanging out afterwards, they expect me to be the party guy, or the chicks that want to have their fantasy story that they, whatever. And you're sitting here and all of a sudden you're doing all this other stuff.
Right.
That really at no point is it you? Like, are you enjoying this? Is this a fulfilling life? Are you able to take the status you have and do good for others? Like, right. I don't know about my opinion of success has shifted. By no means am I a monetarily wealthy person. I manage my money responsibly now, but I for the first time, I really feel like a successful person because, I'm blessed to have people reciprocate. Hey, thank you. It was a very sweet lady not that long ago. A text message is, thank you for your help. I'm 6 months and I really appreciate it. It's like, oh, it's my honor. God blessed me with this opportunity, and it's a really good place to be in life to just look at success differently. Now, don't get me wrong. Yeah. My dream car is still a Porsche GT, 911 GT3 RS. But if I don't have one, my life is not going to be unfulfilled. And if I have one, my life isn't going to be fulfilled. It's just a pretty cool car.
Right. No, you're spot on in that. And, my idea of success has shifted too, because for over 30 years, it's been monetary, right? Material, and it's just hunting, right? Now, you know what it is? I want to be remembered as something other than the guy that had the stuff. I want to be remembered as the guy who helped people, or the guy who helped change the way people recover forever. That's what I'm involved in now. This tech company is just going to blow the roof over anything that we've been following for recovery for 40 years. But I want to be part of that legacy. You know what I mean? And that really, for me, is the definition of success.
Yeah. Well, and I want to get into OpiAID here in a bit, but you said something that really resonated with me about the not being remembered as the person that had the stuff. And I think I want to be the kind of person that I live my life that someone comes into a meeting and goes, I have what he wants, and it's not the monetary things. It's the spiritual things, the values, the principles by which I live, and it's about what I do and not just what I say. But I want my words to match what I do.
Amen.
I'm all in. Like, you want what I have? Good. And
right.
And you're not breaking the 10 commandments and doing it. It's the good stuff. I'm in. You have my time.
And isn't it funny that what you have doesn't get diminished by helping somebody else get it? Isn't it funny? It's like, this is something you could share that you actually don't lose when you share it, which is amazing. It's brilliant. You want $10? It's coming out of my pocket and I'm giving it to you, right? But you want a lifestyle? I can help you with that. And guess what? I'm still enjoying that lifestyle, that same one that I'm helping you achieve. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, and I think it shows, as we get older, I think we value time so much different. And I'm cool with giving that time if someone else, the people on the other end are also valuing that time to do better with themselves internally to help people with it from there moving forward. Because time is,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, no matter what our bank account says, we ain't got more time to buy when we go and meet
No.
our maker. That's it. That's our time
Yeah.
here in this plane of existence.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, this is our thing. I mean, it literally is a near-death experience. If it took us that to just come out like appreciative and grateful and just kind of change your tune, that's what it took. But it's really what it is. It's God slapping you in the face
Mhm.
and allowing you to hit the reset button on your life so you can start fresh. That's when you start living again. You know what I mean? Because the last time you felt like this was like, what, a teenager or as a kid growing up? I mean, when was the last time? After that, there's ailments, and there was the acid in your stomach from too much alcohol or bad cocaine, by the way, where it felt like you're driving nails through your nostrils. I mean, it was just the horrible stuff we put up with in our addiction, but it's just like, oh, I gotta have it,
Yeah.
It's horrible.
And I mean, did you hit a state of the understanding of how much misery you were in? Because the reason I asked that is, I'll celebrate recovery is what I go to the most, and oftentimes the topic that is picked, and I'll speak on that, and I'll explain. I want to share that, so maybe it resonates with you because I keep that really close. Because anytime, and it's a pretty quick process now. If there's something like I was telling you, I did the ring announcing for an MMA event and people are drinking, I'm like, oh, well, they're having fun. And I go, that is misery to me. Like, it's that quick. I know what it is for me. It is a
Yeah.
path to misery. Like, all of my
Yeah.
greatest fears come to fruition. My kids will not speak to me. My finances will go to and my lady will leave me. I know that for sure.
Pretty much your life flashed in front of your eyes of what could be,
Mm-hmm.
right? With that just one slip. Yeah, I mean, I think about, maybe you shouldn't think like this, but I think about all the people. First of all, I blame me for everything. I own everything.
Yes, sir.
But just when I'm in the gym, I think about all the things in my life that were the idols that I worship and all the people that allowed me to worship those idols.
Mm.
And I turn on my heavy metal music, I put my headphones on, and dude, you want to see a madman working out? It's me, and I just get it out because it's just like, I'm not mad at them. I'm mad at me. And I'm just like, okay, I'm so grateful. But right now, just so I don't think about the past ever, 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 I'm just going to be mad about it. Like, how can you just completely destroy and waste your life? Like, literally a train wreck. I mean, all that talent, all that stuff, all the inventions, all the cash, the jobs that I created for people, everything. It was just, what could you have been? I mean, if you thought that was big time, you could have been more. And now you have a chance to be more, right? Don't blow it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen it, not just in ourselves, but so many people that were at death's door. And I mean, gosh, I've encountered, men and women from homelessness and, just like every physical ailment that you could imagine, and the ability to bounce back and truly transform to become something completely different is possible. And it's amazing when you see it. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I love, uh, not that long ago, I was in between someone that had 30 years, and then I shared, and then the gentleman next to me was 5 days, and I was sandwiched in between a spectrum of just beautiful steps of transformation.
That's awesome. And you learn from everyone.
Yes.
And that's the beautiful thing. I mean, you could just be sober one day and there's something that you can learn. Everybody has a unique story. And there's millions and millions and millions of us, by the way. There's a lot more of us than them. Okay.
Yeah.
However, not everybody chooses to vocalize their recovery journey. Not everybody can take. I mean, look, the number one fear is not death; it's public speaking. So when you put that in perspective, right? There's a lot of people that are terrified to do what we do. Okay, that is a gift for us, and it comes naturally, But and so that's what we were talking about, is just embracing the gift that you were given. If that means going and having a platform and using your gift so that others can be inspired, that's what we do. And so I love where I'm at right now. I know you love where you're at too. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yes, sir. It's funny you bring up that the public speaking number one fear. I still get it all the time. Like, how do you go up and do that? And I'm like, well, hey, I literally did try to kill myself, and understand the first time I did do these things without having some alcohol in me, I was a little bit afraid, but then I realized that certainly didn't kill me. So,
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
enjoy the fun of it. Like, I get paid to be like, okay, my ego gets to come out a little bit because this is what I get to do. And once I'm off of that stage, I go back to being the introvert that I am and kind of shy, and that's okay. That's how
That's
I
all
roll.
right.
Well, let's
That's
jump
all
into
right.
before we go to random questions and final thoughts. Let's talk more about OpiAID. I mean, this is exciting stuff, especially with what we're seeing with the fentanyl crisis, and addiction is an overdose, the number one killer in the world now.
It is. It's really scary. And I will tell you, yeah, I invented Bug Ban. I got some home runs and stuff, but I will tell you and your audience, I'm not really a smart guy. But in my entire career, what I've been able to do is relate to ordinary people and sell an ordinary service and an ordinary product. So when I met the founder of OpiAID, and brilliant team, by the way, some of the finest people all over the world are working at OpiAID right now. It wasn't the academia that I could understand. I mean, but what I did understand is the revolutionary transformational way that math is going to be enhanced. That I understood because I immediately went back to my bad experience with math. Okay. And I'm just like, holy cow, I got to get involved in this like now, and I did. I immersed myself in this. Let me tell you what opiate is.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I am wearing, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so this is a smartwatch and it's powered by OpiAID. Now, you won't see any distinguishing marks on the watch. This is a Samsung Galaxy. And the reason is because OpiAID, their true north is their love for their neighbors in recovery. They don't even call them addicts. They call them neighbors in recovery, which is it's a beautiful thing. And so they want to treat our disease with care and compassion. And so there's no like distinguishing labels like, oh, you're wearing a recovery watch, It's a cool watch. And by the way, it
Yeah.
works. But what our technology does is it's able to distinguish the difference between anxiety and withdrawal. Hold on. And it's able to measure the level of withdrawal. The same way you use a glucometer to measure your blood sugar, the same way you use a breathalyzer to measure your alcohol level. Boom. Like, wow. Are you freaking kidding me right now? Right? So if you flash back to my time, we'll pick a feelings chart. How do you feel? Tell me, tell me when the last time out the window. Now they would know, okay? There are people that really, really need help. And by the way, your condition changes daily, hourly, weekly. It's not always the same. You're not going to crave the same till your next visit, hospital visit or doctor visit. This reads the biometrics my biometrics every 5 minutes, sends it to a database. The database applies our machine learning and our algorithm and spits it out in real time to the health professional at the treatment center. Okay. So now the health professional is able to work with me and prescribe personalized care just for me. So the one size fits all method is gone. The take two pills, call me in the morning, gone. The 6'5" guy and a 5'6" guy treated the same, gone. Now we're handling recovery for me, specifically for me. And if I get better quicker, the protocol will change. So it is the wave of the future. It is the new gold standard in recovery. And brother, I am so excited to just let people know that there's new technology. It's not in the future, it's now. And that there's hope, because recovery for us is all based on hope. And so I am going to treatment center after treatment center after treatment center. And for lack of a better word, we're powering them up. And then the next phase is to have my beautiful recovery community. I'm going to point them to the ones that have our technology.
Yes, absolutely. I would be fascinated to even be a part of a case study with that. That's so interesting and intriguing to me. And I'm glad that there is that new technology that is out there. We've got to use these tools for betterment. We just do.
We do. And, I mean, and the critical parts, I mean, 1 to 30 days, 1 to 90 days,
Yeah.
hit and miss. You don't know. And
Yeah.
you're not going to be under a doctor's supervision 24/7. And the people that, let's say, they're able to go home and then they have a follow-up visit in 30 days. What are you going to face? Well, how was your 30 days? Tell me how you feel. I don't know. Or I've had my ups and downs, right? This talks for you. They know how you've been because it takes readings every 5 minutes. You never take it off your wrist. So we're able to help guide people, provide insights towards long-term recovery. But also, let's face it, I would know if somebody's got those thoughts, if somebody's ready to OD, if somebody's ready to relapse. I would know it before it happens, which gives the health professionals a chance to save lives.
Yes.
And that's big stuff.
Especially now, we won't go too far down the road, but being the work that I do, I know how insurance companies have changed the way that folks can get treatment, the longevity that they may or may not need, and to have these additional tools that deliver that in real time. I mean, it's really huge. It's huge.
Yeah. I'm so blessed to be a part of this, seriously, but they couldn't have picked a better spokesperson. Where I thought that like my recovery, my addiction was like the walk of shame for an entrepreneur, celebrated entrepreneur. Oh, look, he's coming out of rehab. Actually turned out to be like the greatest general stripes I can be wearing, dude. Because it's just like recovery people get each other. For me to walk into a building that's about recovery, that's about treatment, it's like, boom, the door's open. I'm in. Where somebody else cold calling that has no idea what people like us have gone through. They're just like, okay, you're going to wait with the gatekeeper. I mean, it's just an immediate connection with my own people. And this is what I consider. I mean, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm exactly in my element.
I love it. Well, if people want to find out more, it's OpiAID.ai. And if you are interested in reading Dino's book, There Is No Box, you can go to his website or connect with him on Instagram. I have all those links in the description, so please do. Much like myself, I know your DMs are open for anyone that's got some questions or even wants help.
Absolutely. Always. Yep.
Yes, sir.
And I enjoy doing it.
Yes, sir. All right, let's jump into some random questions before I ask you for the final thoughts. These are, for good times here. Do you have an interest or a hobby that you may not talk about that people might be surprised to learn about?
I am a drummer for over 50 years.
Really?
And Yeah, and I have a 30-piece drum set, and I am a beast on it. But it's really hard to find people to play with because everybody knows like half a song. So if there's somebody out there who wants to jam, let's
Ugh.
get together because I would love it.
I better brush up my skills in case we ever do get together in person.
There, there you go, man. It's all fun.
Where did that start? Where did your drumming start? I mean, would grow up with musicians, family of musicians, just a passion for music when you were young?
Yeah, my dad played several instruments, and so as kids, he would play the guitar or whatever, and my brother and I would just sit and kind of listen. And then I went in the kitchen and I got like this Tupperware and a wooden spoon, and I started playing, and I never stopped.
Oh, that's too cool.
Yeah.
If you could rank like your three biggest influence of drummers, who might they
Oh,
be?
wow. Well, Led Zeppelin's John Bonham, Rush, Neil Peart, and then as crazy as it sounds, the drummer from Pantera was
Oh yeah.
fantastic. Oh my goodness! And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Look, I could keep a Beatles beat. I know all different kinds. I all music, but that's really like the level of like songs. That's my all-time favorite three.
Yeah. Oh, as far as if you look at like siblings that did music together, the Abbott brothers from
Yeah,
Pantera, just, I mean,
crazy good.
it's funny, like, people love Walk, Pantera, right? That two notes. But if
Yeah,
you take out what is going on drums, once that song kicks in, it loses everything.
correct. Correct. I mean, they played off of each other great, but let's face it, that guy is a machine. I mean,
Yes.
he's not a drummer. He's like a I don't know, like a cyborg or something. But you know, uh, the stuff that he did was just like I mean, my jaw still hits the ground. But I mean, nice person to look up to. His work will live on forever. Even
Yeah.
if you don't like Pantera, you'll like this drummer.
Yes. Yes. Well, you picked a good three there for sure. I mean, guys that they just had the chops, man. I mean,
Mhm.
that is for sure. And Bonham, I could probably talk about this stuff all day with you, but let's jump to something else. If you could have dinner with any one person, living or not, who would it be?
I'd love to have dinner with my intoxicated self.
Really?
Yeah, I really would. So I could just slap him around a lot because seriously, I mean, some of the stuff that I did and said is just absolutely unacceptable and unheard of. So it's nobody else, right? But it would be me, um, which is probably strange, but anyway.
No, that's the first time I've heard that, and that is that is a really beautiful way to think about it. Because oddly, my next question was going to be if you could say one thing to your childhood self, what would it be?
There was one thing I could say to my childhood. You know, I don't think he would have listened.
Mm,
I think everything played out the way it's supposed to play out. So that question would be, I wouldn't say anything because little Dino wouldn't have heard me.
mm. If we do this again, we'll have to do a childhood conversation because I can relate to that. Uh,
Exactly.
all right, let's do one more fun random question here. I've never asked this before, but I've wanted to, and I think this will be a good one before I ask you for final thoughts. What is one thing you think can't be explained?
Ooh, that's a really good one. One thing that can't be explained. Huh. It's the drive that one has. The drive that I have doesn't come from anything on this planet. Okay. And so I find it difficult to articulate this drive with people that just like think like, oh, well, you must have gotten your training from somewhere, or you have somebody in the family who may have done this, or no, I don't know where I get it from. In fact, if you compare how I live to my family, you'd think I was adopted. Okay. And I wasn't. And I wasn't. It's a drive that cannot be explained by earthly things. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, gave me chills. That gave me chills. Again, the website OpiAID for OpiAID, OpiAID.ai. I got the links also if you want to get Dino's book, connect with them on Instagram. Dino, this is where I ask you for any final thoughts you'd want to lend to somebody struggling, maybe a loved one of someone who's struggling.
Sure. No, thank you. I'm not going to give a whole lecture, but I am going to say that I was always so worried about stopping and quitting because, oh my God, I'm going to feel withdrawals and I don't know if I could do this. And now's not just a great time because I got this coming up. And look, I will say one thing. You are stronger than you think. There's never a good time to start. Okay. It's never going to be a perfect schedule that it's going to fit into, but you are stronger than you think. And you have a beautiful recovery community that's made up of millions and millions and millions of people, no matter who they are, no matter what show they represent, no matter what branding they're doing, they are all there to support you. So reach out, don't be embarrassed. They'll meet you where you're at in recovery and support you all along the way.
Yes, sir. Dino Miliotis, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Hey, likewise. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love the work that you're doing. Keep it up, my brother.
Thank you. That means a lot. And on that note, remember, no outside solutions to inside problems and keep knocking doors down.